Hey everybody, it's Max, and with 2018 just having started, it is time for the standard previous year energy and resource review and this coming year's energy and resource predictions. Now again, as always, the facts from this previous year, which is 2017, are coming from industry and agency data, and the numbers and projections I'm giving as my predictions for the coming year of 2018 are completely my own, based on a combination of industry and agency projections, along with my own interpretation of data and likely to happen or likely to be resolved political, industrial events. So, to give an unusual start, we're actually going to deal quickly with gold first. Nowadays we mine in excessive amounts, comparatively at least, because nowadays we no longer just use it for jewelry to enhance our own egos and vanity. Nowadays, many things that operate and help maintain the very functional base of our society rely on computerized electronics, which are inherently dependent upon gold. Granted, each individual device has a very minuscule amount of gold. However, the amount of computerized devices across the planet, and as formerly impoverished third and fourth world nations begin modernizing and improving their own quality of lives, more of such devices, personal and necessary, are being added, and thus more active gold is consistently being needed. That has us still obviously mining large amounts of gold. And it appeared at the start of last year, 2017, that we may be peaking in our global gold extraction rates from mining output. With 2015 having us capped at 3,100 tons of gold extracted worldwide, and 2016 appearing to be just around the same area, aka also around 3,100 tons. However, even only halfway through 2017, it looked like we were beginning to fall short of that number, as the first two quarters came in each about 10 tons below their respective quarters of 2016. And then when the third quarter of this previous year, 2017, was looking just about the same, if not a tiny bit lower actually, we came to the realization we were now on a declination. The final numbers have not been released as of yet. They should this month, January, however, and I'm assuming that the total mined gold for 2017 was likely going to end up being between 3,040 and 3,060 tons. This decline is likely going to continue. Granted, it does look like it's going to be somewhat moderate. So I'm assuming by year-end 2018, the total mined gold for this year will likely be between 3,000 and 3,045 tons. Now, at the start of last year, 2017, as gold production was on a plateau and potentially about to decline, I predicted that the price of gold, which at the time was hovering between $1,150 and $1,200, would go up over the course of 2017 and would hover between $1,200 and $1,300, and it actually surpassed my expectations, as it became evident from the data that gold mining was on a declination, and it actually hovered between $1,275 and $1,350. Now, as the total numbers from 2017 come out and are lower than the previous 2 years, and especially when and if it becomes apparent throughout this year that we are still having declining numbers, which I highly suspect it will, the price obviously is likely going to continue climbing. And I suspect from where it is now, which is hovering between $1,300 and $1,350 at the moment, I suspect heavily that it's going to have a wide range and will probably hover between $1,300 and maybe as high as $1,550. Again, it depends on the numbers, and it depends on what I refer to as market or investor stubbornness. Now, jumping over from gold into silver, which is also highly necessary in complex electronics. However, is also in extreme demand nowadays because of our civilization's love affair it's having with solar power in the form of photovoltaics. Solar thermal power, where we point a bunch of mirrors at a water tower and, boil it with the sun's heat, that is actually a viable option in climate areas that get nearly year-round sunlight. However, photovoltaics, in my opinion at least, are a very poor means of power generation and are extremely resource intensive, especially in terms of their consumption of silver, where we are pushing nearly a third of silver consumed over the last few years has been used to make photovoltaic solar panels. Aside from their resource consumption numbers, they're especially poor because of the sheer amount of solar panels and space, obviously, they're occupying that it takes for them to actually generate the same amount as a conventional steam turbine power plant. But silver mining over the last decade or so has gone from relatively around 650 million ounces per year up to around 880, and has, just these past few years, seemed to plateau and now seems to be on a decline along with gold. But the numbers from year-end 2016 had a total global silver output at 885 million ounces, whereas the previous year, 2015, was around 900 million, so that was a drop. And from the initial information from each quarter, it looks like the year-end numbers for 2017, I believe, will be between 879 and 892 in terms of million ounces mined for the total year. And year-end numbers for this year, 2018, will likely be slightly lower than year-end 2017. And thus, that's likely, again, going to push silver prices higher. As of the start of this year, is at around $17.20. It's probably, towards the end of this year, going to $18 and $19 an ounce. But again, that'll all depend on the numbers, so we'll have to see. So dealing with one more metal before we move on to energy, we have the subject of copper. Now, copper is used on a much more broad-scale application and in much greater numbers than the previous two metals. Now, copper output has been on a steady upward climb and had a bit of hesitation once just recently, but after that, the numbers year on year resumed their climb again. And as many copper mine operations are rapidly being initiated in quite a number of countries, and already existing ones are rapidly being expanded, many of these in Chile and Peru, the year-on-year amount of copper output we have is expected to continue climbing. And most projections actually have it continuing to climb until roughly between 2033 and 2043, and then peaking, and most of them see it heading down a pretty steep dive after that. Now, for the immediate future, continuing steady climb does appear to be the most likely, as after the little stall we had a couple years back, 2014 I believe it was, the climb just immediately continued, with the year-end number for 2016 being 21.7 million tons mined, and I'm expecting the year-end numbers for 2017 to look around between 21.9 and a flat 22 million tons mined. And if enough of the expected to be expanded projects get expanded, then the year-end numbers for this year should climb to between 22.2 million and 22.5 million. Now, although the amount mined is remaining on a constant climb, the global demand for copper is also keeping pace with it at just about the same rate, as so many places across the world that formerly had no access to electricity are being electrified and modernized. The year-on-year demand for copper is still going up, and it's relatively matched the increase in output over the last decade or so. So over the last several years, the price of copper measured per pound has fluctuated relatively, with a few dips and peaks here and there, between $2.50 and $3.50 per pound. I suspect it's likely going to stay in that range for this year. But copper for the immediate future and potentially for its entire future of the next 15 to 20 years up to its expected peaking point. Looks like it's going to be relatively steady and unchanging.